Well, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for being here. Welcome to the Joint City Port Committee meeting. I'd like to call this meeting to order. Michelle, roll call.
Mayor Perez.
Here.
President Zacharias.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem McQueen-Leeholm.
Here.
Vice President Ramirez.
Here.
City Manager Vega.
Here.
CEO Port Director Deacon. Here. City Attorney Smith is absent. Port Legal Counsel Duran.
Here.
Thank you. Next item, C, public comments. Any public comments? Thank you. Great. On to item D, discussion minutes, recommendation approval of the April 16th City Port Committee meeting. Move to approve. Thank you.
I was going to say, I did have one question.
Sure.
So we can do that.
Okay.
Just on, just want to make sure I understood. On page 4, I'm looking on my iPad, page 4, in the area that says monument project, on the last sentence, it says, and we're talking about phase 1, 2, 3, and 4 for the monuments. And it says future clarifying that phase 2 would have to come back as a new project for approval. Just want to make sure we didn't mean approval that we will go forward, but an approval of what it will be. That's correct?
Yes.
Okay, just want to make sure that that's what that meant.
Correct.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you. So we have a first and a second.
Second?
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed or abstentions? Thank you. Next item is for discussion is community benefits fund projects, recommendations, and provide recommendations if desired.
I'll just add, just to remind everybody on process where we're at.
Okay.
So we are closing up this fiscal year on June 30. So starting July 1st is kind of our 190-day window. Michelle, can you help me remember the amount? I think that Austin said we had it as 100, somewhere between them.
It is
Available with a CPI adjustment, because it's 100,000 adjusted by CPI, is upwards of
I think
$130,000.
it was 132,700. I'm sorry, I don't have it right now in front of me,
Okay.
but
I'll text I'll get the confirmation on that. But just in terms of process, so it's in that neighborhood of around $135,000, and we have 190 days to deliberate and come up with the full process. So we start here, we vet through projects, this time are ready with input from our board. You were ready last time, but now we can share input. And then if we get some consensus here, we bring it back to our mutual boards for full vote. They have to vote by a majority vote. And then those projects move forward. If for some reason we can't, the money would deliberate and come to consensus. After that 190-day window, the money would go back into the pot and would be re-deliberated for another year. And if we can't do it then it would be another year. And then it would just get split 50-50, go back to each of us if we can't figure it out from there. So we are happily not in a space where we haven't been able to move forward with each year's allocation. So we are in that fast approaching the 190-day window and a little bit ahead of the game, right? Because we're doing it before the close of the fiscal year. So just in terms of process, that's where we're at, commissioners and city council members.
Great. I do have a technical question for you, Elise. This list that we have attached here, this is the one that the city of Camarillo, city of Port Wayne presented last time around, right? And I know that there was a lot of discussion last time when you clarified for us, Kristen, the difference between the community benefits fund and the share revenue agreements. And I'm just curious if we have a historical perspective on these projects and whether they fall in line with the 4 items on the legal document for the community benefits fund. Did you all, when you all came up with these?
So these are, most of these are on previous lists already and had previous allocations. It's been a trend for a lot of these to have received community benefit funding in previous past. That's where a lot of stuff came from.
Yeah, there really wasn't much new this year. I think there might have been 1 or 2 things like the tennis backboard that was something that hasn't been on the list before.
That was a
Senior
public comment
senior
request.
programming, same thing.
Yeah.
But most of them are items that have been funded by the CBF in the past.
So is the tennis backboard owned by the city?
So it's asking for a backboard at our city tennis courts.
So you would own it, so that would be considered general fund.
That was a public,
Yeah.
comment request.
Okay.
And I'll just note that, and just a reminder that that list was essentially a brainstorming to then be able to have the joint meeting to start talking about what ideas the joint committee wants to recommend this year.
Because my only thought is I think that we're in a good place that we should, I personally feel, and this has been an eye-opener for me, is if we went back to the agreement and looked at those 4 sections and said, okay, this is a good time to go back and refocus on what we're supposed to be using these funds for. Mr. Attorney?
So, Madam President, would it be helpful if I shared with the group my notes on what that agreement says as to those 4 categories you're talking about?
Absolutely.
Thanks. All right, so this comes from, there are 2 sections of the 2015 settlement agreement that control here. The first is section 9, which is a general statement of kind of what this is meant for. It says, the CBF, quote, may only be spent on approved projects that benefit both the city and the district and the communities they serve. So that's the overarching kind of controlling goal, for lack of a better word. And then section 10 is what President Zacarias is talking about. Section 10 authorizes that CBF funds be spent on A, shoreline protection, community development through joint initiatives, which is, it is somewhat broad, but community development means something in our business, right? In the city business and in the special districts. Opportunistic endeavors like economic development or environmental mitigation, and then other projects agreed by the board and the city council, of course, upon recommendation from this body. So as long as you are identifying projects that fit within those general parameters, understanding the overarching theme of must benefit both the district and the city, then we're completely within what really most of our predecessors here. I mean, I don't think many of us were, I was here in 2015, but I think President Zacarias was not, and Commissioner Herrera, I'm sorry, Ramirez was not. And so, but the folks who preceded us sort of laid down the parameters for what the money could be spent on. I'm happy to answer your questions if anybody has them.
Yeah, I'm just gonna ask you if you don't mind, and I should be saying, I need to ask the
Kristen,
question.
I was gonna say, I was here and lived through it, and so the 3 of our other commissioners.
And
heard it.
And your point is well taken, Kristen. I apologize for that. But my point was that it was a serious negotiation. There was a lot of back and forth. And I think all the parties were happy to get it done, happy to get that settlement agreement signed, and sort of being able to move forward from where they had been in the years immediately preceding that settlement agreement. So thank you for the reminder.
Just a quick question for you, and I don't have it, I have it, but I don't have it in front of me. So you read the areas, and then you ended it with other items that are approved by
The board,
the board.
the Board of Harbor Commissioners and the City Council.
Right, so do you need those 4 items as approved, or those 4 items and other items that are approved?
And.
That's what it was intended. Having been there, the idea was to create some latitude to what was relevant at the time.
If a mutually beneficial opportunity arises.
Right. Exactly, just.
And I know that we came up with some items, but I would like us to consider taking a step back and saying, do these and do ours all within these parameters. I think it's a good time to clean house and really focus on it. I'd love your feedback and thought on that.
Yes. It's the plaque board. What are you asking if they have?
If they, because Mayor Perez asked about this particular page.
I don't have that document at all.
No,
That's the settlement agreement.
that's a settlement
Oh,
agreement,
okay.
yeah, exactly.
Is that something we can get printed?
And do you want this particular page? I have it.
I brought the.
Okay.
Okay, no, I'm just saying, do I have all the documents? I see other documents here, I'm like, sorry.
I can give it. Yeah, here it is.
Do you want the whole thing or
Just that one page.
I show you my phone, but the screen is too small.
So I think, President Zachary, I think you were saying that maybe take a step back from diving right into projects, and it looks like you guys have a memo list of maybe laying out some criteria instead, is that more what it is? Or,
No, I'll defer to my board. I mean, if you want to say, we discussed this in our last board meeting. And I think there was some communication that maybe less is more. If you did put more towards less things, you might get bigger bang for the buck. So that is just something that was more conversational. And then there were some specific core areas that thought, well, shoreline protection, senior activities, or grant writing, and the DC trip kind of came out through our commissioners board as something that we should bring back. I don't know if you wanna.
When talking about community development, what items do you, on the list, I'd like to know what you consider specifically, like what types of things for community development?
Are we talking about the settlement agreement? or
Yes,
this-
yeah, well, the alpha
How
based off of
does
this
this,
list.
the list that we have
Oh,
Yes,
coincide with that section? If or if not, and I'm just more of just asking in general.
exactly, because that's why I want the clarification as well, because I think that we've gone away from those four items. And I totally agree where Kristen made this, if we put allocate more money, let's say for example, for grant writing, I think that there's tremendous opportunity for federal funding, as we saw, we went to our DC trip, but you can't set aside $5,000 for grant writer, that's not gonna do it, but you set aside $25,000 for grant writer to really be researching and writing these grants, you're probably gonna make a bang for the buck, right?
I don't know that we need that? We have a new position in this
so,
preliminary grant writer.
I think, we created a new analyst position, we have a new analyst, that analyst is starting to track grants, but I think that the idea I heard from a prior meeting was looking at grants that could be applied for that would be beneficial to both the port and the city. I think in that case, having somebody who has expertise in that, and then somebody that can kind of do that by contract for both agencies, would have some value to it. And our analyst is gonna be learning that skill this year, so it might be a good year to actually have a year where we have a contractor doing it, and we can get our analyst tied in with them and kind of learn how to
Yeah,
take
that
it.
was my
and to give some context, Letitia also, I'm sure she remembers this, but she's responsible and oversees our grant writing, and it's a heavy lift. And Adam's in her department, but you have to get all the letters of support. So to give some context, we spent, I think, $45,000 to write our grant to the state for the PFIP grant that we got, and it succeeded in getting us 80 million, but it took $40,000 to get that. So it takes a lot of bandwidth, and firms usually have kind of that bandwidth to help in those things, just to give context.
You do. I mean, at the university, we have one person specifically to grant research, grant writing, and once again, though, but the rate of return is tremendous on what we could possibly get back.
Yeah, I got a contractor last year in my prior city, and even a fairly low-cost contractor, we ended up paying $60,000 for 1 year to apply for 3 grants, I think.
Geez.
So it's
Wow,
not
it's expensive.
cheap.
Yeah, that was just one grant, was
Yeah.
PFIP, forget, it's expensive to write grants.
Okay.
Yeah. But if you get the right people, you get them.
So yeah, so I would like to hear thoughts on what we think are opportunistic ideas and community development, if we want to talk about reining those in.
Can I ask a quick question about grants while we're on it? So, city manager, what do you think our expectation is coming this year in writing grants? How many have we written in the past? And is that because we don't have a grant writer?
Yeah, I think in the past, we've sort of applied for the 3 or 4 that we get every year. And typically those fall into like public safety. There's literally a grant called the COPS grant, and COPS stands for something. But like every city, every year you put an application in, you get that. And so in the past, we got things like that, but we haven't really like, or I haven't seen other than maybe Bubbling Springs, probably the big one, that we haven't really like done like a thorough grant application. And I think there's opportunity for us, I think on like the street paving and the infrastructure of a 75-year-old city with pipes starting to fail and things like that, that serve a military base and a port. And, you know, I think there's like, you can start making that argument, but it takes a lot of effort to put all that together, so.
And I imagine it's not just grant writing, it's doing the research to see if there are actually grants
Well, even
I-
grant tracking is
Yes.
a full-time job.
Adam, I don't know if it's possible to dig it up, but the aftermath of our DC trip, there were certain ones that, there was kind of areas that we were encouraged to go for. One was inside DOD because we are a community and a port abutting a Navy, I recall that one.
Yeah.
There was another, there were a lot of community grants for EPA.
Yeah.
Where we could do Clean Port and Clean City and those are some off the top of my head, but I think we went to a lot of meetings, we kind of had this debrief and we haven't really followed through because we don't have this resource. That's just,
I think the same is the
Yeah.
case when we went.
Yeah.
RDP, we heard of a lot of grant opportunities, but then you have to say, we come back, right?
Right.
You get busy.
right, exactly, yeah.
Exactly. And I was just mentioning to, Mayor Pro Tem Jean that, with our RDP trip, I got the Pentagon back out from the university, and now we're gonna start an internship program for our engineering students in summer 2025, but there's follow-up work that has to be done, right? But that's part of my job, but if you have someone assigned to the grant writing portion, it could be very lucrative for the city and for the port on having someone focused on those particular items.
I think maybe the second piece that ties into though is the comment. It sounds like this was the feedback from the board that some of these things will be bigger chunks, bigger costs.
Mhm.
So it might be a case of having to do fewer things and that it costs more rather than a lot of small things. So that's something I want to think about.
And of course, shoreline protection should be an obvious one for both of, to benefit both of us, right, the shoreline protection part. And then the Washington DC joint trip, I think we should keep on there because we live, through wet, I'm sure, I think that there's a lot more possibilities.
It is now, we've talked about it, but the last year was us pretty much tagging along and seeing how everything's going, and now we have an actual game plan that we want to make sure that we're prepared for, so that we can attack from our side as well.
Yeah.
And not just, which is, it's beneficial to go there and support the port as well, but we want to make sure that.
Well, I think, exactly, so I think that my understanding of that joint trip is to benefit both of us. So if you have, correct me if I'm wrong, Krista, if you have any projects that you're looking for, then you let us know, you know what, we'd like to meet with EPA because EPA could do blah, 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 or we're searching for this, and then we work with our,
Yeah, having done a lot of trips to Washington, the one really, I think, neat outcome of that was the respect that we got from the people that we were visiting with, that they saw a port and city together. And I think maybe you may have felt underprepared because you were sort of new to it. I don't think they perceived you as that.
Well,
Yeah,
I
you
don't
know,
necessarily,
yeah,
I did get that as well, and they were
Yeah.
all very congratulatory to us for the fact that we were able to do
Yeah.
this, but we know we could have, had we had a
Right,
little more
you're ready now.
we could have leveraged
Yeah,
it a
yeah.
little better, and I
Yes.
think we're going to make sure that we
Yeah.
do that this time.
Yeah, and you've been on the job a month. I mean,
Yes.
If that. No, but it was really well received.
Yeah.
And I think if there's priorities that you have and the priorities we have, we go in there together, they're more likely to get attention at the federal level, for sure.
do we know offhand, Kristen, what the dollar amount we set aside for that DC trip so we can deduct it from that?
We didn't, in our board meeting, put in any numbers. I will ping Austin and find out what it actually cost. Because I know we brought extra people that we didn't tag to the CGF. We made sure it covered the city folks. And as again, they're in the midst of reconciling everything. So if you have any outstanding invoices or everything, we had to make sure everybody was made whole for that trip. But we had put $10,000 in the past. I think it's kind of light. That's what we did in the past, just because it's the airfare and hotels, and if you do it in 2 days, but if you wanna, it depends who you wanna bring.
Yeah.
You know, 3 people is good.
I think we were good.
Yeah, it's a good place to budget question.
20,000, wasn't it 20,000?
I think it was 20,000.
20,000.
I think it was 20,000.
Oh, was it 20,000?
It was 20,000,
Oh, okay, then
yeah.
we might be all right.
Yeah.
At that level. I'll find out from Austin, sorry.
The one thing on shoreline protection, and I'm not sure, I'll ask finance to correct me if I'm wrong on this, but we've been trying to reconcile And so I think we made good progress, so we'll follow up with you guys on that after. But there was that project on the 2019 list, I think it was, that said something like sand replenishment. No, I'm not seeing it. It was on one of the prior lists of projects, and I don't think we could figure out what that was.
Not inspected, nothing.
So we've never inspected it, we're not sure, we don't have any record really other than just the text sand replenishment. And I will just say like $20,000, like, it's not much for sand replenishment when we're talking about what is it, $18 million budget this year?
That would be more for advocacy is how I would see it, or
Yeah.
education or something like that.
So-
Shoreline, yeah.
So that's
Yeah.
that's a category of our contract, the shoreline protection. So maybe we would want to have something there, but I think we should define it a little bit better of what exactly we're expecting it to be and what we're looking to do with it. And maybe it would just be, some funding to advocate with the Army Corps or whatever it needs to be. So.
And along those lines, and so timeline wise, you said 190-day window starts July 1st. So we still have some time to define these and work through these, right? It doesn't have to be.
Yeah, we're off to a running start here, we're ahead of the curve.
Oh.
So, yeah, so the clock really starts clicking July 1, but it's good to start kind of weeding through things, because we start here, the goal is to come out, and we do have monthly meetings now, but to come out of this meeting with a joint list that we all love, and then bring that back to our mutual boards for approval.
I do like, and I would like to see if everyone agrees, the 5K event that we did in March, the joint collaboration between the two. I believe that was CBF funds before. I think that falls under community development. That's why I wanted to know, what does community development mean?
We left it vague to have that latitude, it's the idea of really, the attorney's here, but it's what is the mutual benefit? So if you can look at, right, what's the mutual benefit? So I would argue in that case, to me, it would be building relationships between poor people and PR, healthy communities, right? That's how we pitched it, I think that is the fun run of
Okay,
all that.
so then, yes, to keep that.
Yeah, it was a 5K and
Health fair.
So I defer to
Which
my
I will say-
commissioners if they liked it and wanted to see it.
Just on that, like, 2 other cities have since done the same thing, so I think that one's catching on, I think that was a good one.
I can tell you, it's funny, I shouldn't say this, but people in my neighborhood got really jazzed about that run. And then a woman that lives across the street from me couldn't run. And she had to go away. So she's like, here, give my shirt and number to somebody else. So she did. And that person won. And the trophy's still sitting in my kitchen, so I gotta give it back to Adam or figure out who owns this trophy.
I actually know who won.
Yes.
So I
She's
have their
volunteered to
trophy.
interact with, so
Okay,
I could get her
let
the
them know, we're
trophy.
gonna get her, I have it, it's in my kitchen, I look at it, and it's the
Yeah.
heart and everything, and I keep forgetting to bring it in.
On item number 2, for senior activities, I kind of requested last time as to what is your city doing for our senior citizens?
Yeah, and I think that for us, our recreation program has some senior activities. The one that is well known that everybody talks about is the Sizzling Seniors. And that's the senior exercise program that's on, I think it's Wednesday and Friday. And maybe everybody knows we have an instructor, Sharon, who does that and does the senior exercise classes. So we do that programming. There's also, we had talked a little bit about this, but there's also a new thing that's been developing that we sort of sponsor, and it was the Ocean View Pavilion is doing something now called
Savvy
Savvy
Senior Night
Seniors.
is like one Thursday
Yeah.
a month. Out of his own pocket, he puts on a dinner, social, with different themes, and we just did their second chance prom a couple weeks ago, and it's packed. It was really nice.
Yeah, so that one though was pretty good that we sponsored it without really monetary stuff. It's by doing things like giving free parking for the day and doing some things like that.
But I've been wanting to, he does so much for the senior community out of his own pocket. He doesn't charge for any of these events, and I've been thinking, what can we do to support him?
So that'd be a possibility. But those are probably the two biggest things. Other than that, we have recreation programming that's open to everybody, but there's not a whole lot of.
So do we have a senior citizen center?
No,
It's at our community center.
Just
but
for
not a
senior
specific
citizens, Just for senior
Right.
citizens. Okay, what about a library for senior citizens based on the Christian Science monitor model? You know how different cities, big cities have a Christian Science library? Well, Boston is the headquarters. You should know about that.
I guess
It's a free library for, senior citizens. Well, it's actually open to the public,
right.
but
We have a library.
library,
yeah.
Can I just say this real quick? So that's the only one that I really had questions on because we have, like our city manager was saying, we have our Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, we have our senior exercise, first Monday of the month, we have
senior social.
senior social, and then we have some things, but my question is, I'm always good with senior activities, but do we have the bandwidth
Exactly.
to add,
Staff-wise.
staff-wise,
Well,
to add additional?
Right, and I think as far as programming goes, we went back and we talked to Rec. They right now don't have like an immediate program that they need that doesn't exist. Like there's nothing that we've been waiting to roll out, in other words. I don't think, if we were gonna do something, we would have to staff it and that would be part of the cost. So there's that. I think what I'm hearing though, maybe is the idea of maybe like designating some space to seniors or something.
Space, and perhaps you might be able to get a volunteer to do the yoga for seniors. I mean, that's very popular.
Well, they have an exercise class that all of our seniors, pretty much like 3 times a week
There's about
for free.
100 people who show up 3 days.
Exercise or yoga?
It's an hour-long
It's exercise.
It's exercise.
exercise. And there is a yoga class
We
on
do
the beach.
yoga class. They just aren't senior specific. It's open to the public. So if seniors want to sign up, they can. If not, they don't.
How about an art class?
We have
We
our
do an art
classes.
class too. Yeah.
So it sounds like, I think your question last time around was,
Yeah.
what do you have up
Yeah,
top, or
yeah,
exactly do you have per
Yeah, and that's when I went back to rec and I was like, is there anything that we're getting asked for consistently? And it's really not. We get asked for right now for, we don't have youth leagues. And so that's the thing. But again, going back to like, there's a lot of requirements to do those, so those aren't just easy things to do either. And so for seniors, I don't know that we have a lot of the programming, or we haven't received a lot of programming requests. One thought there though, maybe this is too disconnected, but could maybe tie into maybe some of the museum programming or something. Because that's something we're getting a lot of senior volunteers and things for. So, you got me thinking when you said space for seniors, and I was thinking that the museum could be something we have like some senior programming or something.
Just a quick question for you on the 5K. How much money do you recall? How much money we allocated last year for that?
I think it was 5,000. I think what we did this time was,
The only reason I'm asking is, did that cover all the expenses? Because there's a lot more than,
it turned into a bigger thing because originally we expected only about 150 to 200 participants. We ended up having over 500. And so we had actually closed it, if people remember.
Yeah.
The first 200 closed it and then overwhelming demand, so we reopened it. So it ended up being probably double what we budgeted.
Okay.
And so I think this year, it was something like, we did 5,000 for Beach Fest, 5,000 Banana Fest, and then 5,000 each for two different events, that was the general idea. And so in the future, that would be one thing, would be, do we want to go bigger, keep the 5K and just go bigger there? Or do we still want to do 2 events and scale down the 5K?
well, a couple of my thoughts, but the reason I asked that is, for example, I serve on the board of CMH. And CMH this is one of the areas that we want to reach out to, so why not ask them to also be a sponsor
Yeah.
of it? But if we get that requested early enough, that'll help offset any excess above the $5,000, which I'm willing to help.
I think a lot of the
Facilitate that, right?
healthcare facilities will.
Exactly. So we can start with, if we're gonna keep that on the list, let's start planning now jointly on who we can reach out to help offset any additional costs beyond the $5,000.
That's a good idea. Most of the
I
events,
feel like we
5Ks
did
do sponsorships.
6, 3 and 3 is what we were thinking.
Okay, so there's three.
And I think that's what happened. And then the 6, we ended up spending, you should probably charge us all of the 6
We did do that.
for the 1. And then make, if we want to move forward with it, just kind of maybe make sure we know events are expensive, right? We have beach festivals, banana festivals, they're expensive, so maybe put a little more
Okay,
towards that. And I guess just what I'm hearing so far, just for tracking purposes, and we can revisit without putting money amounts to anything yet, but just like fleshing out ideas. So far, I've heard the DC trip remains on the table, the grant writing should be on the table, and healthy community event should be on the table. Is that fair?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So this is what we did. Okay, so DC, you guys were right, it was 20, that's probably enough. And then these were the other things that we did last year. So if we look at the communities. Where's the healthy community?
Down the bottom, 6350.
6350,
oh, there
okay,
you go, yeah, okay.
Oh, but that was for 2 events.
Mhm.
for 2 events, so I think we expended it at 1.
Yeah.
We did it all.
Okay.
We went big, one big event.
Yeah.
So it ended up being that. So I think when we get to the conversation about money, we'll keep that in mind, but probably one is just easier for, I would suggest, I mean, of course, James and I will do what the will of our leaders want, but it's a little easier from a staffing perspective, and you don't get fatigue of events, because things like that.
No, I think that was a big hit.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think so. And if you keep it, I love your idea. I think you kept it around Valentine's Day, right?
Mhm.
And
And
Yeah, the
heart
heart,
awareness
yeah.
month.
And actually, people love that,
Yeah.
because there's not a lot of races around hearts.
Mhm.
There, you have a lot of Santa or things like that, or you have,
There's some good
but, yeah,
costumes.
turkey trots and things like that, but
Yeah.
people like the heart,
I think if we can put that on the calendar right now, as soon as possible, then when other folks come up, because I know I get a lot of calls saying,
Yeah.
okay, what's your calendar? Do you have
Yeah.
an event on this date?
Yeah.
They can say, oh, that's already been taken up by.
We'll do that. I think we get a consensus here that that one's a keeper, so we'll try to
Yeah.
lock in.
Another interesting comment, sorry, James, is that I think people, if we want to, they were like $10.
That was it? Oh, really?
Yeah, they were
Yeah.
kind of like,
We're in pretty much marathon runs
Yeah.
right now, so every marathon we sign up for is at least $50.
Okay.
We haven't
right,
found
so
any
if we
less than
wanted
that.
to
Yeah,
look at that, even if we went to 2025,
Yeah.
you know.
I think
People
so.
will pay,
People
Yeah.
will pay for it.
They
We got a lot of
pay.
feedback that people said it was a good deal. so.
Yeah.
Okay.
Even the Fillmore little 5K they had for their wellness event recently was, I think it was a $30 fee.
Did I interrupt you? You have another remark? Sorry.
No, I was just gonna comment that we'll try to get a date on the calendar, but if everybody remembers, the winter was so weird, but we ended up having to change the date
We did,
because
yeah.
of the wacky weather,
Yeah.
so we'll try to kind of keep that in mind.
February, March,
End of
springtime.
February, I think, not beginning of
Yeah.
February.
Okay. And do we discuss anything else on this one?
Well, I guess there are other things on their list that, so far with DC Trainer, is there anything else that, a lot of these organizations in the past we support, I just leave it to the discretion of the leadership here, how you feel about the other items. I'm not sure what city marquee letters were, or.
That was just a
Yeah.
random thought. Like, there were a few of these that were added on that were just kind of random, add-ons.
I think Lego First, I mean, I don't know, that seems to be one that
What was it?
gets the Lego First does get a lot of mileage, if we did wanna do short money, and it's not a heavy lift to staff.
It's the
That's the
robotic-
big one, right?
robotic-
That's the robotics competition, I don't know how the city feels about that, but it's on your list, did that come up through?
Yeah, that came up. So let me just ask a question here. I've been to the last 2 and I really enjoyed them.
Yeah.
But when I put my hat on about what's the benefit to the port and of the city of Fort Hueneme, help me understand that. If we're gonna go back to this, following, so help me understand that.
BPR.
Yeah, I'm good with it,
Yeah,
like I
that's
said,
what it
but-
would be, but I, again, I wouldn't, I think that's how we would justify it, but it's certainly, I'm looking at the things on your list, and I just make sure we talk about
Previous
them.
lists.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And, you know, and I love the PR part of it, however, I think we have to be strategic about it, because I don't think we got our at least that was my first time starting, I felt like it was being rushed. I'm like, well, wait a minute, we just paid for this, right? So I would suggest that we put a strategic PR spin to it. I don't know what would look like, but I think if we start planning now, we can have it as opposed to just saying, oh, here's a check, okay, thank you, bye. I'm like, wait a minute, do they really know?
Do you want to try again or no?
Yeah, no, I'll let the group, I just wanted to make sure I
Yes.
spoke that out loud.
Yeah, no.
One thought, just this is more a question, or maybe kind of a brainstorming thing would be, you know, some of the things that I heard from people was like, do the people coming, do they eat in Port Hueneme? Do they stay in Port Hueneme? You know, that kind of thing. Is there any leeway there to ask?
We could ask Velma, we could
Yeah.
go back and ask her, I'll
Ask her
tell you
what
this,
the
when
holiday-
there are a couple things we did a debrief, it's got to be better parking, period. This
Mhm.
community cannot be impacted that way, even if we sponsored or not, it cannot
I'll do a
happen
plan
like
for
that
it.
again. It has to use the beach lots, bus the kids in,
Yeah.
but I know a lot of people stayed at the little hotel here.
Mhm.
Cause I saw lots of backpacks, you know, going over there, and I'm sure they probably walked over, but we could probably, anything I'm seeing is just anecdotal, maybe she could track that and give us some sense of
Yeah,
economic
It kind of
impacts.
reminds me of when in
Yeah.
Ojai, we had the Ojai tennis tournament every year, and we would do that where we would at least encourage them, you know, tell everybody, you know, or work with the hotels, get like a 10% discount if they stay within city limits, you know, at these hotels, and encourage people to stay and put money back into, you know, our city economy. So even if it's just something like that. you know.
Something we can do too, which we've done when I was here and actually in other positions, you give them a little Port Hueneme passport.
Yes.
And then they get a little ticket that's, you know, maybe they get, you know, we help the companies with it, right, as part of the CBF funding, but you get a 10% discount if you go to Anacapa for Kappa, you get, like, you give them a little passport.
Yeah.
So they'll go to the different businesses in the city.
How many people
Yeah.
participate in the robot?
Oh, my, it's
25, well, what was it this year, 2,400 students?
Yeah,
So,
parents.
so obviously, they have to eat.
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, anything that can bring people into our city is beneficial.
Yeah, I'm sure they do, but we could help it along.
We can help it.
Yeah.
And I just made a note to myself to reach out to Brian Tucker, who does the Ventura Lodges Association.
Yes.
That he's great at marketing, so he can help us figure out how to market this and to folks to stay in our hotels and work with, is it Thelma? Thelma, work with her on getting this information, these links to the hotels, to the restaurants, to the parents before, when they register.
Give them a list.
So,
And we should have more than a minute in the
Yeah.
opening
Oh,
to be
definitely.
able to like educate, get an opportunity to educate these, like on the city and the port, like so they walk away with, not like, oh, we only get a
How
second.
many are from local schools? Do we have any local school participation?
Yes, we do.
Grace Brethren, although BC County, I think, went really far.
So I just want to have this
Yeah.
conversation, so that was what my question was about. The other part of the question was, I run into a lot of folks that are from Port Hueneme that don't even know that the event is happening. So I think the strategy, you know, being strategic about our local marketing, because, you know, me going as an educator, you know, I know that there's a great benefit in our local kids going out and seeing young people do these things. So that's kind of where I'm coming from.
I kind of agree with you because I've seen on TV where they'll, you know, Channel 7 will they'll do a robotics in LA somewhere and ours is
Where
a
is our
lot
news
bigger.
Where they're new.
Yeah, so
And
we,
yet we haven't been able to get the local TV from LA to come and check
so
out.
that'll be part of the strategy is to get the PR part of it, marketing part of it. I know that on social media, a lot of people says, well, how can I, what entrance do I take to get, can I see it as a public? A lot of folks aren't aware of that, so I think that we do need to take the strategic part of it and work on it for the organization and work collaboratively with them, because I know they put it on, but I don't want us to be viewed as just entity provides space and that's it. No, we do this for a reason. right?
Exactly.
And were there any comments from the city on any of the other items on here? that you wanted to bring up that
Couple
you
quick,
wanna move forward or?
quick ones. I think the cat trap and release we had decided could come off, right?
We removed that, yeah,
and
because they're not doing that.
Yeah, and there's when we're in the midst of that reconciling that we mentioned, and we found that they actually haven't really taken the money the last couple of years, so we actually love to figure that out too, but I think that can come off.
There's one item that there's on here on this list, and it was suggested to me by one of your winning residents, and that is a public shower for dogs at the beach.
A public shower for dogs at the beach?
Yeah,
Well,
Montecito has one.
They already
Uh,
have that.
probably because dogs aren't supposed to be on our beach.
There you go.
So, and there are public showers out there
Yeah,
that
but,
people can use.
no, but for dogs. This is specifically for dogs.
That's, I don't think that
Yeah, they
we're
want to
going to put
encourage
a
that.
shower
Well,
So
at the
believe-
beach unless we
believe it or
change the
not-
ordinance to allow
Yeah.
dogs.
Believe
on
it or
the
not,
beach.
it's actually one of our more controversial things.
Yeah.
The council members know, I got an email that they were all blind copied on, from a member of the public, when I was on vacation, just outraged about why we weren't arresting people with their dogs on the beach. So I think for us, it's still a area,
We have
like,
to
we're
figure
careful about
out what to
encouraging
do
it.
with
Well,
that.
this lady happens to walk her dog every morning at the beach.
Tell her to get off the sand.
Yeah, yeah, because I know
Yeah.
there's restrictions
Yeah.
on the,
Yeah.
yeah, you can't use a regular.
So dogs are not allowed at the beach.
On the sand, they're not allowed.
On the sand.
Why can't you go to the beach and I can be in the sand?
We didn't, it was created for our time. And I'm still trying to brainstorm as to how to,
There's been a few
Figure that
ideas over the years, but it's never, we've never been able to come to a consensus on it.
I'm glad I'm a cat lover.
So just so I'm understanding direction correctly, so right now we have 4 things on the list. So it's DC, grant running, healthy communities, and LEGO are the ones that we kind of gave affirmation to. And I just want to make sure that there's nothing more. And if not, James, okay.
Okay, I do have one.
Okay.
I'd like to just propose it to you all and it will come up, and it's on the list. It says elementary school programs. And so you all know we're getting ready to do scholarships for folks. So the elementary school, I'm talking about Port Hueneme Elementary School District. I spoke to
My
Dr.
kids right there.
Yeah, I spoke to Dr. Walker. I got the action to go and talk to her and find out what are some of the things that might be, they might need funding for. And so I spoke with her just today. And she said that they do have a performing arts center. She said most of the items are covered by the school district. She said, however, they have throughout all the local Hueneme School District elementary schools have bands, they have mariachi, they have musicals. You all know they're getting ready to have one at the OPAC. And she said that the only area that would be really nice if they could get a supplement is helping with new uniforms. They don't have the funding for new uniforms. So that's around the arts area, and that she would be able to, she said even at the lowest level, with
Should give
whatever.
any kind of number.
I mentioned, most of them are around 5,000, possibly 10,000. She goes, no, anything that you could get would work just fine.
Is this for the band?
For either the band or just through the arts, for the
Okay.
arts center. So I'm gonna put that out there and let you all kind of talk through that. And the only reason I brought it up today is that we're talking about scholarships for high school students. So I don't see that we've done anything in the past for the elementary school.
And they have a good band, because I judged the
they
St.
really
Patrick's Day parade, but I do have to go to the uniforms.
What about that dancing program that this lady by the name of Jewel has?
It's in the school district, right?
So it's covered by, yes.
It's in the arts,
Is
yeah.
it covered by the school district?
Yes. All that in the arts. She said it's the bands, anything in the arts, dancing, singing, but she specifically talked about the band, the mariachi, and the school bands. And she said all of the programs are at all of the Hueneme High School.
but it sounds like uniforms aren't necessarily covered under all that.
So with that list then, James and I could get together with the accountants and put some numbers here to bring back at our next meeting and see if we like them. And then we can bring them back to reports after that, so we're in good shape.
I mean, just ask a couple of questions. So you have the Banana Festival up there. Is that something that's not gonna move forward anymore?
So that's what I'm asking, so this is
Okay.
what we've discussed, so looking at your list, anything else, right, at this point, we're doing a little bit less and maybe with more funding.
So I'm just saying the items that we generally do, you know, the Banana Festival, we have a Wainini Beach Festival. Are we saying that we're not gonna do that or not add it to the list now?
Just not put it on the list at this, at least at this point, that's what I'm understanding, like we'll fund our own events.
Yeah, I think
Okay.
that's what I was gonna say,
Yeah.
we each are responsible for funding our own
Yeah.
events. Cause those are events we're gonna put on either way.
We're gonna do them anyway.
Exactly.
Doesn't
Yeah.
matter.
Okay. Thoughts?
What was the Wainini Youth Programming Education?
Wainimi Youth Programming Education. I think that was yours. Oh, no,
No,
wait.
this is this year, that's last year.
So the youth music and cultural programs one, or which one?
No,
are
it says
you-
Wainini Youth Programming
No.
Education,
Oh,
5,000.
is on catch?
No, I did.
I was thinking in Lakesh.
In Lakesh was youth music.
Oh, yeah, that's right, it's the one right above it.
Oh, right above it, okay.
I don't know what that one was, and then it could have been Real Guppy. Did we do a Real Guppy one?
Yeah, we gave 5,000
Yeah,
to Real
that
Guppy.
was, okay, could have been that.
Oh, we gave, yes, because the Explore program's already on there. So we did the Explore program, which is youth interested in law enforcement. And I believe the Wainimi Youth program was Real Guppy.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Real Guppy.
Real Guppy.
Okay, there's the system help.
They're on,
That was the CARES program,
Okay,
but
all right.
we don't know that, we were unsure where that came from or who benefits that.
so the brainstorming list had Explorers and Real Guppies on, are those ones that we wanna?
We want to keep on the list.
And I guess In Lakesh is the other one.
And
too.
In Lakesh?
And, Little League.
Yeah, we didn't have them on the list this year.
And I know I kind of wrote it on my list because they weren't on the list.
Yeah.
Do you have
So
a
we-
week?
Yes.
I think we did Little League because
We did.
there was a hiccup for them, and are they back in business or they're?
Not yet.
They're having to rent fields
They're-
while we
yeah.
do our park remodel, which is gonna continue through this year.
So
So-
at the beginning of next year, they'll be back in business. Their next season of 2025, they'll be back in Wainimi. But right now, they're
And that's gonna be a Bubble Springs Park?
correct.
Because I know you mentioned it when we gave them the money.
Yeah.
So is that going to be an expensive project for you guys?
Very expensive, $16 million.
We got a $10 million grant. So the rest of it's coming from,
A series of
7.4,
grants that
okay.
totaled about 10 million between
Yeah.
the grants and ARPA funding. So, but it's the biggest project we've probably done in decades, $16 million, including, because everything went crazy price-wise during COVID, about 5 million we're gonna have to pay out of our own pocket, which was not the original plan. So that's a big project.
and then a lot of things came in that we didn't necessarily anticipate. For instance, it required us to ADA everything all the way around, including adding
Having
sidewalks and
sidewalks.
fixing now, the last one was the parking lot at the community center, which we didn't know we were gonna have to do, but we have to. We have to improve that and ADA that as well, so.
So when is?
So am I hearing, just, I'm being practical, sorry.
Mhm.
Bring us back to
When is
the
the project
agenda.
gonna be finished?
At the end of the year, it has to be by December 2024.
It's spring of 23, or spring of 25,
June.
wow.
I thought the deadline was the December.
It would be great if we can get it done by then. There's like a deadline of December, and then we have to report that everything's done in like April or May, so we really are gonna be cramming.
It's exciting.
Yeah, so it's a big project, it'll be cool when we can do the groundbreaking.
Do you want
So
to?
am I hearing though, just that we want to keep Police Explorers, Real Guppy, and Lakesh and Little League on there and just kind of play with numbers and bring it back?
Yeah.
Does that sound good?
Those would be sort of the.
Yeah, that'll be the community.
development
Yes.
category.
Along with the legal terms, yeah.
Mhm.
And we have the elementary school in there too, along with DC grant writing and public communities. Okay, we'll play with numbers and see what we can do.
Thank you. And then item number 3, city Hawaii budget revisions.
Yeah, and so it's part of just, we keep saying that at some point that we'll start trying to come proactively to talk about our budget and kind of tell everybody what's going on and what the plans are for the year. The city adopts a 2-year budget, And actually, technically, the budget was adopted about a week before I got here. So I haven't really gotten to like adopt my own budget from scratch yet. And so I just explained that because, so this is we're doing our mid-year revision at this next council meeting. And so we're making a lot of adjustments to try to kind of meet the new economic realities. And I wanted to come and sort of explain that and give a little overview. But the caveat is, it's like, this isn't a full budget and I'm not starting from scratch and I don't have like the ability to make a lot of changes. So, but in a nutshell, you know, our budget is, I would say our budget in general, we're in good shape, but we're seeing the impacts and the end of the monopoly we had on cannabis for all those years. And so luckily, what people forgot about and maybe didn't make all the headlines is when we got cannabis, we also adopted Measure U, the sales tax measure. And so cannabis is going away, but we still have that Measure U sales tax increase. And that's gonna really, I think, help kind of, that's really gonna be the thing that helps to stabilize us into the future, whereas in the past, you know, a decade ago and beyond, our city would, you know, occasionally have serious financial issues. We don't expect that, but it is sort of like, I keep saying, it's like we have to get back. We've kind of gotten used to a luxury lifestyle the last few years, and it's time to kind of get back to our real lifestyle, you know.
Reality.
Yeah, the year of winning the lotto is over, you know. And so this year is kind of the year we're adjusting to that. So pretty much from the day I got here, we started to look at that, and we anticipated cannabis revenue dropping, so we started to make adjustments. Where we had vacancies, we froze them, even though it was kind of before we had, you know, those challenges. And so that has worked out because it ended up, we got the news that we're gonna have about I think it was a $1.2 million reduction in cannabis yearly moving forward, 1.2 million. And then, right, am I right on that?
Yep, you're on.
And then I think it's 600,000, and we've been looking at 400 pages of numbers the last month, so I might be getting them off a little bit, but the another 600,000 or so that is because of the Amazon warehouse moving into Oxnard and taking a portion of every city's sales tax. So those are two big challenges that I think are coming for us, and they're going to be the new normal. And so we expect to have some budget impacts there. And so we are looking closely. We have some positions that we held vacant where we're doing those types of things. But at the end of the day, we're bringing a proposed balanced budget back to the council this Monday, June 3rd. And we don't expect to have any really like major shifts. It's really just sort of like what I call right sizing, you know, our departments and having the key positions. But how that relates to the port is that, as you know, every year the port has the revenue sharing agreement. And so we want to get better at every year ahead of time, and especially like this coming year, we'll start doing budget workshops well in advance, and we'll start going through all of it. Then we're going to come to the port as part of those discussions and talk about what we're expecting and where we're looking, you know, to use the money. But in this year's budget, with it being a revise, there's two main areas that the funding is planned to be used, and that is primarily to provide about $1.5 million towards the operation of the police department, and then I'm big on like just big pictures. So our police department is about $11 million a year to operate. Police are not cheap. I would say I think it's fair to say in most cities it's the biggest expense and the biggest you know, challenge, and pension costs increasing and all that. So it's about $11 million, and so we propose using about 1.5 million of the 2.6 million or so towards police costs. And then that relates to our chief is very focused on also connecting with the port and trying to make sure it feels like the port feels like we're getting the service, or you're getting the service from the police department that you expect, and kind of working proactively with Kristen, I think Mike.
That's perfect, it aligns with the contract.
Yeah.
You know, the agreements.
Yeah, and one of the goals of, you know, both the city and the port, I think, is, you know, it's really the security of the community.
It's crime or economic development.
Yeah, exactly. So that's a big chunk of it. And then the second one, which is, that's probably gonna be something that we look at trying to do like annually. The second one is more of a one-time expense. But this is the year we're gonna try to pave Wainemee Road. And it's a big expense to do the whole section of Wainemee Road. It'll probably end up being about 2.1 or 2.2 million. That's what we're estimating. And so we're proposing sort of using some of the revenue where it's basically a split where the city will pay half of it and then that revenue pays half of the Wainemee Road project. And again, we were trying to look for mutually beneficial projects. I think we all know that's a critical road for both parties, you know. So we wanted to come kind of proactively and say that, like I said, next year, when we're really starting from scratch, we'll actually be able to really talk about like, you know, what ideas, you know, does the port have and what preferences. But for this year, we just wanted to at least kind of come give that explanation and overview.
We talked about the opportunity to maybe put something in a letter bill with an explanation of that. Are you still open to that?
Yeah.
This is great.
Yeah, I think that would really help and show visibly to the community the partnership that we have, right? That
Yeah.
we're working together, that this is where.
And good news to you, you have another 200,000 to spend.
Oh, I'll take it.
So it's looking like it's 2.8. That's what we put
Okay.
in our budget for our contracted fees to you next year. We have
James
to
did
close
a
the
great job
forecast.
of heading off a
Yeah.
disaster for us, coming in and pretty much with staff and getting us on track where we needed to be, or we were a little off track. But
We're in a good place. The crazy thing, and you guys are sure dealing with this too, the pension costs are just, they're always the challenge, but they're spiking at a level I haven't seen. And, you know, feels like it's always bad news, either the stock market's doing great and for some reason that impacts pension costs negatively or then it goes
CalPERS
forward.
has its fun little formula
Yeah,
that,
exactly.
you know,
it doesn't make any
Yeah.
sense.
Yeah, when it
you
goes
know, you
great,
have to
it
put
goes
in
up,
your
when it goes
operating
bad, it goes
budget, yeah.
Okay, great, well, thank you, appreciate that update, thank you. And item number 4, Washington DC trip, I think we talked about that.
I think we all decide we want to go, and I think we just need to kind of, I think James and I talked just a little bit, we don't want to rush it so that we do go prepared, and this would be the team. So we just want to make sure everybody's working with everyone's schedules.
Yeah, didn't we look at the second week of September after the beach festival?
Yeah, I wanted to ask you guys, I just didn't get a chance right before, but, so we have the beach festival and it's that Sunday. And so we theoretically be,
Leaving that Tuesday night or
yeah,
Wednesday?
and I'm like,
So
is,
you
the
wanna
more
do
I
the
think
week
about it,
after?
is that really realistic or would it?
You wanna do the week later, after that?
I think the week after that, the only problem is we have a council meeting, and that's why we didn't pick that week before.
Well, we don't leave on a Monday.
Yeah,
And
Banana
Banana
Fest is
Festival.
coming up too, the end of September, we're not, maybe what we should do is
We can
we'll poll and then find a good time to go, because we could even go November, you can go end of October, there's no, it doesn't, we're not beholden to any date, we just wanna go, we also probably should talk to John and Kiriakis
Well, that's what I was
and
gonna say.
find out good
What
time,
What
yeah.
does DC say? Let's
Yes,
have time to go.
exactly, yeah, when are people in session and when, you
Exactly.
know, and when
We'll
are
start
they
there.
competing with other
Right.
things, stuff like that, yeah.
I just want to make sure we get it on our calendar before it starts getting up.
And we can start planning ahead now and
Let's
getting
call
that
John
general
Kiriakis and
idea of
find
what
out.
we wanna.
Give us time to go.
Okay,
Yeah, I started to think about being in the sun 2 full days and then
Trying to
somehow
fly
get to
and
Washington,
fly.
yeah, and it's just like, I'm not gonna represent them.
if I could just take off the table though, the week of September 30th, that whole week, because I am in DC already for the university, so.
Multitasks.
Well, unfortunately, they won't let me split. I tried that once, it didn't work.
Just so did we like the program? I mean, you were there last year, is that good, 2 days sufficient? That's probably
Yeah, I
sufficient,
think
right?
that was good.
That was good.
I was exhausted by the end.
Yeah, it's a
was.
lot,
No, we had a great time.
yeah.
And left us plenty of time in the
Yeah.
evenings and.
It was a lot of work
Weeks
during the
into
day,
trip.
yeah.
Yeah.
It's a lot. But you want to just
Correct, it
maximize.
was a Wednesday, Thursday, and then
So we
some of
went
us,
Tuesday and some stayed
Yes.
later.
Mhm.
and some of us extended a couple of days and stuck around DC.
Yeah, I think one of the best things is the transportation being all together. Just so
Yeah,
you don't have to.
Some
I
people
felt like I was a celebrity driving around. Like, it was like Secret
are
Service.
no,
The
yeah,
way the people that were escorting
You
us,
do a good
that
job.
woman, she was tough looking.
yeah,
She was like she could take somebody out.
Well, perfect then, thank you. And then item number 5, other committee important initiatives, anything on the agenda? Great.
It's the problem with catch-all categories, you can never remember what it was.
So we are officially over at 4:32 p.m. Thank you very much, and then we'll see you
All right, good job.
the next month. We do have the new routine set up already.
Do we?
Yeah, it was on the Wednesday.
Oh, that's right, we
Yeah.
said that.
Yeah, and I love the idea that we're doing this once a month, just to get us back on track. And if we have a future date, we want to go every other month, that's great, but I think just to pull us all together,
Yeah.
this is good for both of us.
Yeah.
But I believe August will need to be.
We're dark.
rescheduled. Oh, you're dark in August too, okay, so that
So we can take.
And this is on our website,
Dates.
it goes back to all the
Yeah.
ones that we've funded over the years.
And
I have that.
we,
Yeah.
when we were digging in some of the old projects, I think are worth you and I talking about, some of the old ones directly, so.
So the ones